and the children. And there were no ulterior motives of power or control. No, no. My gosh, man, we're teachers, we're practically doctors. We're surgeons on the little brains of the little ones we love so much. I warned you earlier this week. If states take from the federal government, and it's beyond states, it's you as well. If you take, they will take from you. So now the states are taking from the federal government. Well, what are they losing to the federal government? Your state's right to use common sense, to make decisions free of federal restrictions. Washington logic now has a stranglehold on each and every state that takes money. You must pause the show, turn the show off, do what you have to do. If this is the only time you pick up the phone, this one's connected to the White House and it's still, they don't call. You call right now. You call your local representative. You call your state house. You go put your butt in front of the governor's mansion if you have to, and you tell them, don't ask, remember, they work for you. You tell them in polite indoor tones that they must not take this money. Why? Because the bill mandates that federal funds must supplement, not replace, state spending on education. And each state, next year's spending on education as a percentage of state revenues must be equal or greater than this year's level. Well, gee, dummies, let's see if we can come on over here and figure it out. What do you say? Let's see. Let's make this about you. Here you are. You're the federal government in this scenario. You make $40,000 a year. You're spending $80,000 a year. Trouble's coming your way. So, what do? You look at your expenses. Food, $10,000 a year. Electric, $5,000. Wow, that's a lot of power. Cable and movies, $10,000. Wow, that might be a problem if you're spending the same. And your house is only a mere $55,000 a year. Okay, come on. I know you just live in the middle of the country, but use the noodle. What do? You say, I think this is a problem, and this is a problem. And this one would probably go down if I moved into a smaller house. That's what you would do. And you'd probably put something in savings or pay down your debt. Wouldn't that be something that a rational human being would do? Yeah. But no. Then the federal government steps in. And this is what they've just done to your state. They say, oh, you're spending $80,000 a year and $55,000 on a house and $10,000 on movies? Well, that's fantastic. Don't worry about it. Next year, we're going to make up the difference here, but next year, you're going to have to spend $10,000 in movies and at least, that's crazy. Why downside? It's for the children. You have to spend at least this much next year. We'd prefer more. What's going to happen to you? Pensions. This is the pension. It's a house we cannot afford. The pensions are the largest budget item for all of the states. They're not touched. They're encouraged to increase. The states that are underwater this year, let's just look at them. There's only a couple of them. Uh-oh. The ones in the red. That'd be bad. Now, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to be able to afford the forced spending requirement from the federal government next year, states? The feds just downgraded our economic outlook. It's going to be worse next year than it is this year. People know it's not getting better. You feel it in your gut. But the government just continues on in the opposite direction of the average American. Do you know that for 21 straight months, people have been reducing their personal debt? Why? Because you have common sense, for the love of Pete. You're doing it. You're living your life the right way. You've learned your lesson. For the first time since I was 4, America is doing that. The federal government? No. They've been expanding. And now they're trapping the states into massive debt. Why? Why would you do that? Governor Haley Barbour put it best. The federal government is hijacking the state budgets. Why would you do that? 2 words. You know them. Say it with me. Cloward and Piven. If you don't, turn the damn set off and go to the computer and look it up. We don't have the money, but we keep spending it. Why? Well, how did we spend this money? Well, they just conjured it up. I mean, they found the savings somewhere. Oh, this is great. Democrats first tried to get the money by using emergency deficit spending. That failed. Then they had to resort to take money originally intended for another program. They chose food stamps. Food stamps. Why would you do food stamps? Democrats want to starve your children. That doesn't work, does it? More on that next week. Food stamps. Well, the stimulus bill, you know, where we have the extra $367 billion, that included a food stamp spending boost, which was based on projected inflation rates for food prices. But are we having inflation? No, we're still worried about deflation. They increased the amount in the stimulus from $20 billion to $54 billion. Well, there's no inflation. That leaves them with billions in the future that we don't have, and that's more than we need. And no inflation? Let's just take that. So they rolled back $12 billion out of their mistake and just steered it towards the teacher unions. Oh, so it wasn't even a cut. They just wildly overspent on something. And then they just took some of that money that was a mistake and sent it someplace else, which is also a mistake. You know what happens to you if you do this? You go to jail. That's where a lot of these people belong, in jail. Not if you're in the federal government. No. You get applauded. You get reelected. You get fancy dinners. Yeah. By the way, does this mean that the federal government has just told us that deflation is coming? I mean, because they're saying there's not going to be any inflation here. No. So if we just continue deflation, that means America's engine doesn't start up, because you can't have inflation until the engine gets going again. So does that mean the engine's not going to get going until 2019? I thought you brought us back from the brink. Oh, happy days are here to stay. But remember, the recovery summer, we have been pulled back from that brink. Don't pay no attention to this guy. Please, don't look at actual facts. Don't let the real world deceive you. There's nothing to see here. Move along. Didn't you hear him? He said, turn the tube off. The government has lost touch with common sense. It's worse than that. They're intentionally doing this. If you're running a company, let's say, because it's the free market system, you're running Evil Capitalism, Inc., because only people that are evil believe in capitalism, and you're making Etzels, and you're making old-style refrigerators, and cute little dollies for the children, and pies. Now, this one company, Evil Capitalism, Inc., has these 4 divisions. This one's losing, this one's losing, this one's losing, but who likes pie? I do. This one isn't taking any money from the parent company. This one is having dollars poured into it from Evil Capitalism, Inc. This one's not. Now, put on your thinking cap. Would you ever consider forcing this division to spend more money to become like these divisions? I don't think so. What you'd do as a good CEO is you'd see these divisions and say, you suck. Do what this division is doing. Wouldn't you? You certainly wouldn't penalize this division. You try to get everybody to emulate that through the rest of the company. As a CEO, if you had one division consistently outperforming others, you wouldn't punish it. But that's exactly what America's CEO is now doing. Now CEO Barack Obama, in this bill, has introduced additional requirements because the pie division is actually Texas. Texas, you'll remember, refused to spend much of the stimulus money that it was forced to take. They said, we're not spending it. Now, if they want any of the $830 million that Governor Rick Perry has, he has to provide assurance that they won't cut education spending till 2013. No, that's 2 years longer than everybody else. Governor Perry, he said that can't be done. Now look, here's Governor Perry. He actually tried to give Obama a letter He was snubbed by the president.